Hey up, folks. In my last video, I argued that what happened in Venezuela was essentially a coup d'etat, which intended to get rid of Nicolas Maduro as president and allow for his replacement by somebody else. It was a fairly unique coup d'etat in that the Venezuelans didn't want to get their hands dirty by removing Maduro themselves. They used the United States to do it for them. Further evidence has emerged which encourages this view of mine. The first is that I discovered fairly recently that the Praetorian Guard that was responsible for the inner security of Maduro was actually not made up of Venezuelan troops. It was made up of Cubans. Now, it's hard to imagine a country that trusts foreigners to protect its head of state more than it trusts its own people. Countries that do that tend to be countries that where the head of state is widely loathed or widely distrusted by elite members of his inner circle. Maduro obviously comes into that category, which is why he used Cubans. Those Cubans went into action, by all accounts, to try to defend Maduro against the Americans. But the Americans were so quick and the Cubans were so uninformed as to what was going to happen that they didn't have time really to do very much, which is why an estimated 30 or so Cubans are now dead. And the Americans have not suffered a single death in the operation. So the Venezuelan troops who formed the perimeter of the defense for the compound clearly allowed the Americans in. I don't think there's any other explanation that holds water. Second point I would make is that people are saying that the Americans must have circumvented the Venezuelan anti aircraft defenses. The argument goes that this proves that Russian and Chinese defensive equipment is not up to par. I'm not convinced by that because we all saw the videos of American helicopters flying slowly over Caracas. You don't need sophisticated anti aircraft equipment to destroy helicopters. You just need a lot of troops with AK-47 assault rifles firing at the helicopters. You need troops with RPG-7 rocket grenades designed to destroy armored vehicles, but they're also rather good at destroying helicopters. The RPG-7 has a range of about 1,000 yards, and when it reaches that distance, it explodes. And what the Afghans did in their war against first against Russia, then against the United States, is they just fired RPG-7s, having previously worked out in their heads that the rocket grenade would explode in the vicinity of the helicopter. And they brought down quite a few Russian and then American helicopters that way. If it's helicopters you want to destroy, and that was all the Americans had, then the argument goes you don't actually need very much sophisticated equipment to do it. Assault rifles and RPG-7s will do the job. Certainly, they will buy time to allow for the defensive troops protecting the president to get their boots on and take up station. Again, this didn't happen, looking more and more as a coup d'etat designed to remove Nicolas Maduro. Interestingly enough, a report came out just a few hours ago that the troops who are protecting Dulce Rodriguez, the acting president of the country, are not Venezuelan. They're not Cuban, they are actually Russian. It seems there is a company of Russian troops who are now providing her close personal protection. God only knows what's going to happen if the Americans decide to return, or if the gang around acting President Rodriguez decide to remove her, because you could end up with a shooting match between Russians and Americans. Think on, folks.